What if consistency has almost nothing to do with motivation? Most people think they fail because they are not motivated enough, because they are lazy, because they are weak, because they do not want it badly enough. But what if that is the wrong model completely? What if consistency is not built on feeling ready, inspired, or emotionally charged? What if the people who stay consistent are not the most motivated, but the ones who learned how to act when motivation disappears? In this video, we're going to break down why motivation is one of the least reliable forces in human behavior, what science suggests actually drives repeated action, and how consistency may be less about passion and more about structure, identity, and friction. Motivation feels powerful, but it is unstable. It rises fast and fades fast. Anyone who has ever started a new habit with excitement and then abandoned it days later already knows this from experience. The mind loves novelty. A new goal creates a burst of energy because the future looks clean, ideal, and full of possibility. But the brain is not designed to maintain that emotional intensity forever. What begins as excitement often cools into resistance once repetition begins. This is not just a personal failure. It reflects how human behavior actually works. Research in psychology and behavioral science has shown that people often overestimate the importance of internal states like motivation and underestimate the power of environment, routine, and cue-based behavior. One of the strongest findings in habit research is that repeated actions become more likely when they are attached to stable contexts. In other words, behavior is often less about how you feel and more about what your situation quietly tells you to do. A simple experiment in self-control research made this obvious. People were placed in environments where temptation, effort, and cues were manipulated. Again and again, the ones who seemed disciplined were often not fighting harder inside their minds. They were simply dealing with less friction, fewer distractions, or stronger structures. What looked like willpower from the outside was often good design from the inside. This matters because it changes the question. Instead of asking, how do I feel motivated every day? The better question becomes, how do I make the right action easier to begin, even on bad days? That shift is everything. Motivation is emotional weather. Consistency is architecture. Weather changes. Architecture stays. This is the core idea most people miss. They build their goals around emotion instead of systems. They wait to feel ready before acting. But readiness is a terrible gatekeeper because feelings are unstable, reactive, and influenced by sleep, stress, hormones, social feedback, and random events. If your behavior depends on feeling inspired, then your progress depends on a variable you do not control very well. Consistency begins when action stops negotiating with emotion. This does not mean feelings do not matter. They do, but they should not be in charge. Think of motivation like a spark. It can start a fire, but it cannot be the entire fuel source. A spark is useful at the beginning. It gets you moving, but if there is no structure to catch it, it disappears and leaves you with nothing. One reason consistency fails is that people make the target too big for the average day. They create plans for their best version, not for their real one. On a highly motivated day, an ambitious routine feels exciting. On a tired day, the same routine feels impossible. Then the mind creates a false conclusion. I am inconsistent. But often the problem is not inconsistency of character. It is inconsistency of scale. The system only works when you are at 80 or 90% energy. Real consistency comes from a system that still functions at 40%. That is why minimum viable action matters so much. If your ideal behavior is a full workout, your minimum might be 10 minutes. If your ideal is writing 2,000 words, your minimum might be 200. If your ideal is an hour of study, your minimum might be opening the material and reviewing one page. Small actions feel unimpressive, but they protect the most important thing of all, continuity. Once continuity breaks, emotion gets involved. You start feeling behind, guilty, and disconnected from your identity. Then restarting feels heavier than continuing ever did. The brain responds strongly to identity. People are more likely to repeat actions that match who they believe they are. This is why consistency becomes easier when the habit stops being a task and starts becoming evidence. You are not just exercising, you are becoming someone who does not disappear when it gets hard. You are not just reading, You are reinforcing the identity of a person who learns regularly. Each repetition becomes a vote, not proof of perfection, but proof of direction. There is also a hidden force that shapes consistency more than people realize: friction. Human behavior follows the path of least resistance far more often than people want to admit. If the desired action is vague, distant, or annoying to begin, your brain will delay it. Not because the goal does not matter, but because the startup cost is too high. If your guitar is packed away, if your running shoes are buried, if your work requires 10 decisions before the first real step, the brain experiences the habit as heavier than it should. The opposite is also true. If the first step is visible, immediate, and simple, behavior becomes dramatically more likely. This is why consistency is often a design problem disguised as a personality problem. The person who stays consistent is not always stronger. Sometimes they just removed enough obstacles that action no longer requires a debate. Another key insight is that repetition should be tied to time and context, not mood. Mood says, I will do it when I feel ready. Context says, when this moment arrives, this action begins. After coffee, I write. After work, I walk. Before bed, I read. This matters because cues reduce decision fatigue. Each day contains too many chances to postpone. Structure removes some of those chances. It turns intention into a track instead of a wish. There's also a danger in making motivation your main relationship with progress, because motivation naturally seeks emotional reward. It wants progress to feel meaningful now, but consistency often feels boring. Repetition does not always feel dramatic. Growth frequently looks uneventful while it is happening. This is one reason many people quit just before results become visible. They confuse lack of excitement with lack of progress. But boring repetition is often what real transformation feels like from the inside. The gym becomes repetition. Writing becomes repetition. Learning becomes repetition. Healing becomes repetition. The mind wants novelty, but progress usually asks for rhythm. If this is true, then several implications follow. It means that failing to feel motivated is not a sign that the goal is wrong. It may simply mean the emotional high has ended and the real process has begun. That moment is critical because many people interpret the end of excitement as the end of meaning. In reality, it may be the beginning of seriousness. It means that discipline may be less heroic than people imagine. Not a constant inner battle, but a reduction of unnecessary choices. Less drama, less self-argument, more automatic movement. It means that consistency should be measured by return speed, not perfect streaks. Missing one day is human. Missing a week because one day became shame is what causes real damage. The strongest system is not the one that never breaks. It is the one that restarts fast. It means that your environment may be shaping your future more than your intentions are. What is visible, easy, near, and repeated quietly becomes your life. This is practical and psychological at the same time. If you want better behavior, do not just inspire yourself. Rearrange the field. It also means that self-respect grows through kept promises, even tiny ones. People often wait until they are strong enough to act consistently, but in many cases, strength is the result, not the requirement. You build trust in yourself by doing what you said you would do at a scale you can actually survive. That trust becomes emotionally stabilizing. It changes the internal voice from, I always stop, to I know how to continue. So how do you stay consistent when motivation fails? You stop expecting motivation to carry the weight. You lower the entry point. You define the minimum. You attach action to a cue. You remove friction. You protect identity through repetition. You restart quickly when you fall. And maybe most importantly, you stop romanticizing intensity. Because intensity is loud, consistency is quiet. Intensity makes you feel powerful for a moment. Consistency makes you powerful over time. People often imagine transformation as a dramatic decision, a turning point, a single day where everything changes. But many lives change another way. Through actions so small, they seem almost irrelevant in the moment. A page read, a walk taken, a practice session started, a task begun without ceremony, a promise kept on an ordinary Tuesday when no one is watching and nothing feels cinematic. That is where consistency really lives, not in the peak emotional state, not in the perfect morning, not in the version of you who feels unstoppable. It lives in the version of you who is tired, distracted, slightly discouraged, and still begins anyway. So maybe the real question is not how to feel motivated forever. Maybe the real question is this: what kind of life could you build if your actions no longer depended on your emotions agreeing first? Motivation can start the movement, but systems keep it alive. Lucid Order. Question everything.